woman in California wakes up at 3 a.m. She can't move. She can't scream. Her body is completely frozen, and standing at the foot of her bed is a figure, tall, dark, featureless, except for one detail that makes her blood run cold. He's wearing a wide-brimmed hat. She blinks. He's gone. But the terror doesn't fade. A man in England reports the exact same entity, same hat, same presence, same paralyzing fear. They've never met. They live 5,000 miles apart. A teenager in Japan describes the identical figure. So does a construction worker in Brazil, a nurse in Australia, a college student in Germany. Thousands of people around the world, separated by continents, cultures, and languages, report seeing the same inexplicable entity during their sleep. They call him the Hat Man. And tonight, we're investigating one of the most disturbing phenomena in paranormal history. A mystery that science can't fully explain. An entity that crosses every border, every language, every belief system. Is he a glitch in the human brain? A mass hallucination? Or is he something far more real than we're willing to admit? This is the Hat Man, and his story is everywhere. To understand the Hat Man, we first need to understand sleep paralysis. It's a neurological phenomenon that happens to more people than you'd think. Studies suggest that nearly 40% of people will experience sleep paralysis at least once in their lifetime. Here's what happens scientifically. During REM sleep, the stage where we dream most vividly, your brain does something extraordinary to protect you. It paralyzes your muscles, all of them. This is called postural atonia, and it's a safety mechanism. Think about it. If your body acted out every dream, you'd be punching walls, running off cliffs in your sleep, potentially seriously injuring yourself. So your brain shuts down all voluntary muscle movement while you dream. Your muscles stay frozen. Only your eyes move. Only your breathing continues on its own. This works perfectly when you're asleep, but sometimes something goes wrong. Sometimes your mind wakes up, but your body doesn't. You're conscious, fully aware, but you're completely paralyzed. You can't move a finger. You can't open your eyes fully. You can't speak. And in that terrifying moment, that split second between sleep and wakefulness, something else happens. Your brain, still partially in dream mode, starts to hallucinate. The hallucinations during sleep paralysis are different from normal dreams. They're more vivid, more sensory, more real feeling. Your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, is activated. Your threat detection system is firing on all cylinders because your brain is in survival mode. It thinks something is wrong. Your body is paralyzed. You can't defend yourself. And in that primal panic, your brain conjures something to match the terror. A presence, a shadow, a threat. For most people, it's a generalized sense of dread, a feeling of being watched. Sometimes they feel pressure on their chest, as if something is sitting on them. But for thousands of people worldwide, the hallucination takes a specific form, a tall, dark figure, featureless except for one distinctive detail, a wide-brimmed hat. People who've never met, who speak different languages, who live on different continents, who have no knowledge of each other's experiences, and yet they describe the same entity with stunning precision. From Reddit threads to paranormal forums to direct interviews, the description rarely varies. He's tall, very tall, 7 to 8 feet in height, typically. His silhouette is distinctive, a long coat or robe, and always a wide-brimmed hat. His face is dark, featureless, no eyes, no mouth, just darkness where a face should be. He doesn't speak. He doesn't attack. He simply stands and watches. One common theme: he stands at the foot of the bed or just outside the bedroom door. Many people report that he doesn't move. He's absolutely still, a statue of darkness, but there's an intensity to his stillness, an awareness. Others report that he slowly turns his head, or that he walks, deliberately, silently. Sometimes he approaches the bed. Sometimes he stands in the corner of the room, observing. The terror isn't from aggression. It's from violation, from the realization that something is watching you while you're completely defenseless. A woman from Pennsylvania reported, "He just stood there, looking down at me. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I could only watch him watching me. It felt like an eternity." A man from England wrote, "I've never been so afraid in my life, not because he did anything, but because I could feel his presence, his gaze, like something ancient was studying me." Here's where it gets interesting. The Hat Man seems to exist outside the strict boundaries of sleep paralysis. Some people report seeing him while they're fully awake, walking down the street, standing at their window, sitting at the foot of their bed in the middle of the day. This is where the scientific explanation begins to fray. Sleep paralysis, hallucinations, shouldn't occur while you're fully awake. And yet, dozens of reports describe exactly that. A Reddit user reported, "I wasn't asleep. I was watching TV, and he walked past my room. When I stood up to look, he was gone, but I know what I saw." Another wrote, "I saw him at work, in the hallway, for 3 seconds, then nothing. My coworker saw me staring at empty space and asked what I was looking at. I couldn't explain it." The consistency of these descriptions across cultures, languages, waking and sleeping states raises a question that science struggles to answer. Why are people describing the same entity if it's just a neurological glitch? Sleep paralysis hallucinations arise from a specific neurological event, the activation of your threat detection system while you're trapped in sleep paralysis. Your brain is flooded with fear hormones. Your amygdala is screaming danger. In this state, hallucinations tend to follow predictable patterns. First, there's the sense of presence, an overwhelming feeling that something is in the room with you. This is linked to activation of the temporoparietal junction, a brain region involved in sensing other minds. Second, there's the hallucination of a malevolent figure, not randomly generated, but shaped by your fears, your cultural background, your knowledge of horror and shadow creatures. The specific form, the tall figure, the hat, the stillness, could be your brain's way of constructing a worst-case scenario threat. Something threatening, something alien, something utterly other. Some researchers point to something called cultural transmission of hallucinations. Essentially, once the Hat Man entered mainstream paranormal consciousness through the internet, through forums, through viral stories, people's brains began to construct hallucinations that matched the description. Your brain knows what the Hat Man is supposed to look like. So when you experience sleep paralysis, your brain generates that image. It's a form of expectancy effect, similar to how people who believe in ghost experiences are more likely to interpret ambiguous stimuli as paranormal. There's also the power of folklore and cultural memory. For centuries, across different cultures, stories of dark figures, night demons, and shadow creatures have existed. In medieval Europe, people called it the night hag, a shadowy creature that sat on sleepers' chests, paralyzing them. In Japan, it's the kanashibari, sleep paralysis where invisible spirits bind you to your bed. In Africa and the Caribbean, similar phenomena appear across folklore. The Hat Man might be the 21st century manifestation of humanity's ancient fear of the darkness that watches while we sleep. It's a compelling explanation. It accounts for the consistency. It explains cultural variations, but it doesn't account for everything, because the neurological explanations, while compelling, don't account for everything. They don't account for the sightings while fully awake. They don't account for multiple witnesses seeing the same figure in the same location. They don't account for the specific, unchanging nature of the description across cultures that have no contact with each other. And they don't account for what paranormal researchers call residual presence, the feeling that lingers after a Hat Man encounter. People who've experienced a Hat Man don't simply forget, they're deeply affected. They change their sleeping arrangements. They sleep with lights on. They report persistent anxiety and a sense that they're being observed even while awake. This level of psychological impact suggests something deeper than a simple hallucination. Some paranormal researchers propose that the Hat Man is a genuine entity, an interdimensional being, a ghost, a psychic predator that feeds on fear during moments when the barrier between dimensions is thin. They point to the consistency of reports as evidence. If this is just neurological, why hasn't medical science identified a specific treatment? Why do people continue experiencing it despite knowing the scientific explanation? There's also a hybrid possibility. Maybe sleep paralysis creates a vulnerability, an opening where the normally closed doors of perception briefly swing open. That in that moment between sleep and waking, when your consciousness is in an altered state, you might actually be perceiving something that exists just outside the range of normal awareness. A paranormal researcher named Chad Lindsay suggested sleep paralysis might not be a malfunction. It might be an opportunity for entities that exist outside our normal range of perception to communicate with us. The terror isn't from the entity itself. It's from our fear of contact. In other words, the Hat Man might be real, but your brain, trapped between sleep and waking, might be interpreting him through the lens of your neurological limitations. You're seeing him, but not seeing him clearly. It's a disturbing possibility, and it explains why people describe such consistent details. They're all perceiving the same entity, filtered through the same neurological lens. The question becomes, is the Hat Man a creation of our brains? Or is he an entity that our brains are forced to represent in specific ways when we encounter him? It means that there's something fundamental in human consciousness that generates consistent, uniform fear responses. It means that across cultures and continents, we share a primal terror of being watched while helpless. It means that the boundary between sleep and waking, between the world of rational consciousness and the world of dreams, is thinner than we realize. For people who've experienced the Hat Man, it often becomes a defining moment, a moment where their understanding of reality shifts. Some become fascinated by the paranormal. Others develop anxiety or PTSD. Others rationalize it away and try to move on. But few who've seen him ever forget. The truth is, we might never know for certain. If the Hat Man is neurological, then he's a profound reminder of how vulnerable our perception of reality truly is, how easily our brains can deceive us, how a simple glitch in our neurology can generate seemingly genuine paranormal experiences. It's humbling. It suggests that we are not the rational, perceptive beings we imagine ourselves to be. If the Hat Man is paranormal, then the implications are even more profound. We are not alone. There are entities beyond our normal perception, and sleep paralysis might be the moment when the veil thins. Either way, the Hat Man tells us something important about ourselves, about the nature of consciousness, about the mysteries that still surround the human mind. And perhaps that uncertainty is the real point. Perhaps we're not supposed to have all the answers yet. If you experience sleep paralysis tomorrow, if you woke up paralyzed in complete darkness, if you saw a tall, dark figure standing at the foot of your bed, watching you, would you be comforted knowing it was just a neurological hallucination? Would understanding the science make it any less terrifying? Because here's the thing about the Hat Man. Whether he's real or not, the experience is real. The fear is real. The paralysis is real. The sense of violation is real. And that raises a philosophical question that science struggles to answer. If something feels absolutely real and causes genuine psychological impact, does it matter whether it's objectively real? Is the Hat Man a ghost? Or is he something our brains create when we're most vulnerable, most exposed, most aware of our own helplessness? Perhaps he's both. Perhaps in that threshold between sleep and waking, the distinction between mind and reality breaks down. So what do you think? Have you experienced sleep paralysis? Have you seen something in that vulnerable moment between sleep and waking? Drop your story in the comments below, because the Hat Man phenomenon reminds us that there are still mysteries in the human experience. And sometimes the most profound mysteries are the ones we experience alone, in the dark, when nobody else can see. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more paranormal mysteries and unexplained phenomena. Until next time, stay curious, stay aware. And if you wake up paralyzed tonight, just remember, whether the Hat Man is neurological or paranormal, understanding him helps us understand ourselves.